This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Catastrophe in the Himalayas. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. Hundreds are dead, hundreds more missing from flash flooding in Southeast Asia. Correspondent James Longman gets us started from Kathmandu.
One image in particular has struck me, what looks like a bus terminal of some description or big official-looking buildings, and it's a really wide shot, and you notice what look like ants running down the street, but they are people, and then this massive, literal wall of water, some estimates as high as 160 feet, comes in and just wipes everything away. People had no chance, just catastrophic.
Several villages in the border region between Nepal and Tibet completely decimated by that wall of water. Here's ABC's Alex Stone.
Buildings toppled, entire villages in Nepal wiped out. It's believed a landslide hit a glacier and debris from that glacier came down with incredible force. The event had the energy equivalent of a 5.2 magnitude earthquake, the water moving as fast as 44 miles per hour.
Reporter Mike Emanuel continues our coverage.
Water rushing down the mountains, wiping out everything in its path. The incident taking place on the Himalayan border between Nepal and China-controlled Tibet. First responders reacted quickly to save lives of those who could be saved. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the United States stands ready to support Nepal with needed humanitarian assistance.
Dozens of American tourists are among the missing. The Nepalese military has plucked over 100 people to safety from helicopters. Some bodies have been recovered more than 60 miles downstream from the disaster zone. Closing arguments are underway in the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. The Massachusetts mother facing life in prison if convicted of killing her 3 children. She's pled not guilty by reason of insanity. Her lawyers say Clancy belongs in a mental hospital, not prison.
Well, listen, the jury has a lot to weigh here. We have Lindsay Clancy, a responsible labor and delivery nurse whose job it was to bring new life into the world, and ironically now has been accused of snuffing out her own children.
Forensic psychologist Dr. Daniel Bober.
At the end of the day, the question for the jury is going to be, is this crime so heinous that the insanity defense cannot excuse it, or is it so heinous that only the insanity defense can explain it?
Clancy jumped out a second-floor bedroom window 3 years ago after killing her kids. She was left paralyzed from the waist down. Just 2 weeks before America marks the 25th anniversary of 9/11, the alleged mastermind of the terror attacks has finally gotten a trial date. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed will appear in court in June of 2028. Mohammed was captured in Pakistan in 2003 and has spent the past 20 years at Guantanamo Bay, the U.S. naval base in communist Cuba. Now to the war with Iran. Qatar's prime minister is in Iran today trying to secure a peace deal.
He is focused on finding avenues for de-escalation, according to the Qatari Foreign Ministry. We do know the visit comes as President Trump told Al Jazeera that the U.S. is achieving a very big victory, but the war will continue as long as necessary.
Fox's Trey Yanks tomorrow will mark the 6-month anniversary of the war. A new report suggests cyber attacks on U.S. water systems were far more worse than first reported last month. We now know more than 100 water treatment plants in a dozen states were attacked. Iran-linked actors are suspected in the vast majority of those cyber attacks. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates is sounding the alarm over the rapid rise of AI.
These AIs have gotten dramatically more powerful, even faster than I expected, and they're now capable of causing cyber attack risk, bioterrorism risk. Then the actions we take to minimize the harms are really completely missing.
He warns America's headed for complete upheaval because of artificial intelligence and says it is evolving in ways that big tech is not prepared for. AI expert Oliver Roberts.
AI is going to lead to potential job displacement, cybersecurity issues, and many other concerns across all of society.
By some estimates, AI will replace anywhere from 6 to 15% of all the jobs in this country by the start of the next decade. Meta must pay $18 billion to 48 states over the next 10 years. It's to settle a landmark lawsuit. Kurt Knudsen, the so-called cyber guy, calls the deal a game changer.
I am quite frankly surprised to see as strict guidelines as are being proposed here for kids under 18, that 2-hour daily time limit, overnight access blocked from midnight to 6 without your parental approval, and notifications that are completely off during school hours. I mean, this is going to be a profound change for American kids, and one they won't like, but one I think that parents will love.
As part of the deal, Meta must make stronger efforts to flag harmful content and remove users from 13 from Facebook and Instagram. Meta is accused of intentionally addicting children to social media platforms. The FDA's approved a new drug to treat advanced pancreatic cancer, one of the deadliest cancers there is. Dr. Monique Yohannan is with the Center for Better Health.
This is truly a grand slam innovation. I cannot overstate the significance of this. What this new drug, what it did was take survival from an average of 6.7 months to almost double that, to more than 13 months. It's an extraordinary breakthrough.
Former Nebraska Senator Dr. Ben Sasse is taking this revolutionary drug. He says his tumors have shrunk more than 75% the past 5 months. American Airlines says another flight blew 2 tires while taxiing on the runway yesterday at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. This is the 5th time this month that an airplane has blown its tires at that airport. Still to come on the Noon Report, name that plow. Pennsylvania, Sunday sues social media. And it's the Bills versus the Steelers tonight in Buffalo.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, tracking the potential of some strong thunderstorms this afternoon, especially for our friends in central and eastern Pennsylvania and New York's eastern southern tier. I'll be back with forecast details coming up in 10.
All right, we'll see you then. Thank you very much, Kevin. Let's check the stories making news where you live all across New York and Pennsylvania. The nation's health secretary is taking on the governor of Pennsylvania. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suggests Josh Shapiro may have fabricated 2 deaths attributed to measles in Lancaster County. The state health department now referring to those deaths as measles associated or measles related. The county coroner says his office has not handled a single measles death. Both victims were unvaccinated. One was an infant. Pennsylvania's reported nearly 400 measles cases this year. Nearly half of them are in Lancaster County. Upstate New York's been dealing with a rash of measles as well.
We know there are many more cases behind those official cases because for every person who has measles and is infectious, if they're interacting with other unvaccinated individuals, the science tells us that those contagious individuals will infect an average of 12 to 18 others.
That's Seneca County Health Director Scott King.
Vaccination is the single best way to prevent getting measles. A single dose of the vaccine imparts immunity to about 90% of people who get that first dose. And then you get a second dose, that gives immunity to about 97% of people.
King tells Spectrum News.
We're not here to force vaccination. We're here to give them the information to empower them so that hopefully they can make decisions that are best for them and those decisions will have benefit to the wider community.
Symptoms of measles include a distinctive rash that starts at your hairline and goes down your head. Flu and cold-like conditions also indicators of measles. People with the disease can have it up to 4 days before they show any symptoms. New York State is getting over $1 billion as part of that landmark settlement with Meta. The big tech company must pay 48 states over the next 10 years for knowingly addicting children to its social media platforms. Here's New York Attorney General Tish James.
Several studies have indicated and have linked social media to depression, anxiety, self-harm, as well as mental illness. And it's really critically important that individuals understand that this settlement was transformative in addressing the harms to young people.
Pennsylvania will receive over $500 million from Meta. All the money will go toward a fund that supports youth mental health services, school grants, and online safety programs for kids. First TikTok, now Snapchat. Pennsylvania Attorney General Dave Sunday is suing another social media giant. The AG says Snapchat is intentionally addicting children and doesn't do enough to shield young users from adult content. Sunday adds that Snapchat has made it easy for adult predators to target kids. This lawsuit is similar to the one filed earlier this month against TikTok. Broome County Sheriff Fred Akshar is joining a lawsuit challenging New York's Local Cops Local Crimes Act. That law prevents local police from cooperating with ICE in civil immigration matters. Also, migrants who are arrested by ICE cannot be incarcerated in county jails.
Immigration is kind of the mechanism that is causing much of this discussion. But for so many of us, the plaintiffs in this particular case, this lawsuit really is about the associated independence and the constitutional authority that is granted to the office of the sheriff.
Akshar says Broome County stands to lose over $2 billion now that it's not allowed to house ICE detainees. At least 15 county sheriffs plan to take New York to court over the Local Cops Local Crimes Act. High schoolers across Pennsylvania are once again being asked to help add some color as well as a safety message to snowplows this winter. We get details on that new at noon from Family Life's Brian Query.
It's all part of the Paint the Plow program, and this year's theme is Snow Means Slow, reminding motorists to practice caution around snowplows and to not crowd the plow. The program began in Pennsylvania in 2015 and invites young artists to paint an original mural on a PennDOT snowplow blade while incorporating a statewide safety theme. Public and private schools can participate, and school officials must complete and return an application to the regional PennDOT coordinator. Deadlines vary by PennDOT district. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you very much, Brian. And the Buffalo Bills will play their final preseason game tonight at the new Highmark Stadium against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Gates will open at 5, kickoff set for 7. Josh Allen will not be in action for the Bills. Drew Aller and Will Howard will take most of the snaps for the Steelers. Buffalo's regular season begins Sunday, September 13th on the road against the Houston Texans, while Pittsburgh begins its 2026 campaign at home against the Atlanta Falcons. We've got more sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
The Pro Bowl is no more. Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, the National Football League is eliminating the game due to lack of interest, both by the players and the fans. Instead, 88 players will be elected by the fans, and those athletes will have an in-person celebration in Los Angeles sometime during the month of February, but no game will be played. The whole idea is to restore meaning to the honor of being selected as a Pro Bowler. All right, let's talk baseball in the Bronx. New York even their series against the Astros after picking up a 9-3 victory. Cody Bellinger broke a tie in the 7th inning with a 2-run double. Ben Rice went deep with a solo shot, and Luis Garcia Jr. followed with a 2-run blast that really broke the game open. The Brewers even their series with the Mets, blowing them out 8-1. Kyle Schwarber hit his Major League Baseball's leading 40th home run, and Jesus Luzardo struck out 9 over 7 shutout innings. The Phillies down the Mariners 6-0. Padres shut out the Pirates 3-zip. You're heading into the 9th. You're down 9-3. Game over, right? Not for the Cincinnati Reds. They scored 7 runs to come back and beat the Giants 10-9. Eugenio Suarez hit a granny as part of that 7-run inning. Hey, the last time the Reds rallied from that many down in the 9th inning, 1958. For San Francisco, you have to go back to 1901 when they squandered a lead that big. Also picking up wins, the Rays, Blue Jays, D-backs, and Marlins, all by shutouts. Other winners, the Guardians, White Sox, Athletics, Rockies, Braves, and Orioles. That is a look at sports.
Thank you, Randy, man. Still to come on the Noon Report for Thursday. New pill to treat pancreatic cancer, Massachusetts abortion battle, and catastrophe in the Himalayas.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. Back on July 3rd, during his comments to commemorate America's 250th anniversary, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani contrasted what he called conventional wisdom about so-called American exceptionalism with his own belief that America is exceptional because, and I quote, "Here, nothing is fixed into place." The approach is similar to how President Barack Obama would often craft his public addresses, borrowing vocabulary but then using a new dictionary, reappropriating ideas from the American tradition with a progressive twist. In Mamdani's telling of the story, American exceptionalism is without foundation, no permanent truths, no enduring principles, no fixed understanding of human nature. In contrast to the founders' understanding of people being flawed yet capable of virtue, a progressive vision of history is built on the idea of ceaseless change. And somehow, every change is for the better because humans are progressing according to some long arc of history. Politically, this aligns with the idea of the Constitution as being a living document, a vessel with no absolute principles, but only new meaning that's constantly being poured into it. Francis Schaeffer described that kind of moral vision as having both feet firmly planted in midair. Mamdani also announced a new tax, a surcharge on those with non-primary residences in New York City. His office then published a long list of all who would qualify for such a tax, despite the long history of violence by those committed to socialist ideology. The assassination of the United Healthcare CEO in New York City by confessed killer Luigi Mangione, and everyone who celebrated it, should have been enough to reconsider that plan. Of course, a central plank of socialism's economic agenda is that the state should own the means of production. In the socialist view, the state's ultimately responsible to ensure what Mamdani has now redefined as American exceptionalism, and his proposal for government-owned grocery stores naturally follows. As Dr. Eric Patterson wrote recently on a Breakpoint commentary, remember, Marx said that control of the economy was the first step toward control of everything. It's noteworthy that democratic socialists attack private property, an innovative business environment, and often call freedoms of religion and conscience smokescreens for superstition and intolerance of their progressive agenda. End quote. Ironically, it was American communists who first coined the phrase American exceptionalism out of frustration that America proved so resistant to communist takeover. And Stalin popularized the phrase as a way to accuse America of believing this heresy that it was somehow exceptional and exempt from the historical inevitability of the communist revolution. There is no universally agreed upon definition, but if America is indeed exceptional, it's not because of some self-perceived superiority or because Americans are somehow exempt from human frailty and fallenness. Rather, it's because the combination of certain founding principles, the priority of religious liberty, the flourishing of pre-political institutions, and a robust civic culture somehow better reflect the potential and the perils of the human condition. The young, energetic faces of the DSA and all of their supporters reject these aspects of America's founding, its covenantal purpose, and its role as a model for freedom. Instead, they reimagine America out of an envy for those they believe have unfairly advanced. Time will tell how powerful the movement will be. In the meantime, Americans should be doing their homework, studying the history of socialism. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, John, thank you for that. Outside next, it's weather where you live with meteorologist Kevin Williams. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Great to have you with us today. Thursday, the 27th of August. A lot to get to. We'll begin in Southeast Asia, where hundreds are dead, hundreds more missing along the border of Nepal and Tibet in the Himalayan mountains. Flash flooding caused by a glacier collapse inundated entire villages. NBC's Janice Mackey Frere.
It's hard to describe describe how devastating this was. A wall of water, ice, mud, and debris on both sides of the border.
Dozens of American tourists among the missing. The Nepalese military has plucked over 100 people to safety from helicopters. Some bodies have been recovered more than 60 miles downstream from the disaster zone. Closing arguments underway in the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. The Massachusetts mom facing life in prison if convicted of killing her children. Fox's Molly Line.
Prosecutors say the Massachusetts mother acted rationally and intentionally planning and executing the murder of her 3 children inside the family's Duxbury home. The defense says the Massachusetts mother should not be held criminally responsible for the killings, that she was misdiagnosed, over-medicated, and suffering from postpartum psychosis.
Clancy has pled not guilty by reason of insanity. If found mentally incompetent, she would be transferred to a state mental hospital. The man who allegedly masterminded 9/11 will stand trial, but not for a little while yet. That trial won't happen until June of 2028. It's what a military judge ruled yesterday, nearly a quarter century after the 9/11 terror attacks. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was captured in Pakistan in 2003 and has been detained at Guantanamo Bay for 20 years. President Trump's in Texas today, hoping to rev up the GOP in advance of November's midterm.
There's a theory that I get the vote. You know, I see it all the time, that when Trump's on the ballot, they win. When he's not on the ballot, the people don't go to vote. And I'm asking the people, get out and vote, pretend I'm on the ballot. If they go out and vote, we're going to win. And if we don't, our country's going to be in sad shape.
He's campaigning for U.S. Senate candidate Ken Paxton, who's running neck and neck in the polls with Democratic contender James Tallarico. The GOP has not lost a U.S. Senate race in Texas since 1990. Robert Kennedy Jr., the nation's health secretary, is accusing the governor of Pennsylvania of refusing to cooperate in a measles investigation. It has to do with the Commonwealth reporting this week its first measles deaths in more than 30 years.
Every place there's been a measles outbreak, I've sent the CDC in to cooperate with the state health agencies, and we've brought it to an end overnight. And the only state that won't cooperate with us is Pennsylvania.
2 victims in Lancaster County were unvaccinated. One was an infant. RFK says the county coroner is not reporting any deaths from measles so far. Pennsylvania's reporting nearly 400 measles cases this year. Nearly half of them are in Lancaster County. A new pill has been approved for use that nearly doubles the survival rate of people with pancreatic cancer, one of the deadliest forms of cancer there is. Yesterday, the FDA approved the drug, which inhibits a form of protein that makes tumors grow. Dr. Natalie Azars at NYU Langone Health.
This particular medicine is targeting a protein that has eluded scientists for literally decades. This is a protein called RAS, and it's responsible for cell growth and division. We know cancer, of course, is uncontrolled cell growth and division, and this particular medicine targets that. It basically turns these cancer cells from an on to an off switch.
The FDA says the pills for patients with advanced forms of pancreatic cancer. In a clinical trial, those who took it lived twice as long as those who got conventional chemotherapy. It is not cheap, however. Out-of-pocket costs will run you about $40,000 a month. Meta is paying out big bucks to settle a landmark lawsuit. The big tech giant will fork over some $18 billion to 48 states over the next 10 years. It's the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, and is accused of knowingly addicting kids to its social media platform.
The company knew about these dangers and lied to teens, to parents, and to the public.
These are significant changes that will keep your kids and mine safer. What we accomplish will protect an entire generation.
More from NBC News business analyst Christine Romans.
This is all about more school, more sleep, and less scroll for teenagers. Meta says it will make major changes to its platform to better protect kids and teens, with hopes that other social media giants will do the same.
Under the settlement, Meta will impose a 2-hour daily limit on Instagram Instagram and Facebook for teenage users. Block those sites entirely between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. Mute notifications during school hours and remove access to some extreme beauty filters. The Big 12 has joined the Big 10 and the SEC in banning former pros from college sports. Those power conferences are taking a stance against a surge of pro players who are now trying to return to college.
It's a total mess. Basically, what the conferences are trying to do is determine who is actually eligible to be a college athlete. Any restriction that is put in place now is immediately sued by individual athletes to courts all over the country. So you now have a hodgepodge of courts all over the country issuing rulings as to what the rules of eligibility are for these different athletes. And the result is it's a huge mess.
Outkick's Clay Travis tells Fox News.
So the WNBA is trying to figure out what a woman is. Well, college athletics is trying to figure out what is a college athlete and who is actually eligible? How many years do they have to play? Can they go pro and be in an NFL training camp and then come back? Remember, this happened in college basketball with the NBA G League. So this is just a huge mess, and many college fans, myself included, are just throwing up our hands and saying it's broken.
Earlier this week, LSU football coach Lane Kiffin added a pair of undrafted players out of Mississippi who had tryouts in the NFL over the summer but were released by their teams during training camp. And heads up stargazers, weather permitting, the moon will look a little different tonight. Rory O'Neill reports.
It's been called an almost blood moon, better known as a near total lunar eclipse, when the Earth's shadow covers most of the moon, turning it almost red. The phenomenon will be visible from coast to coast, but it won't peak until about 12:15 a.m. in the east. At its bloodiest peak, about 96% of the moon will be in shadow. I'm Rory O'Neill.
All right, thank you, Rory. You're listening to the Noon Report for a Thursday on Family Life.
This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm your host, Sarah Harnish. With me today, Alliance Defending Freedom's Chelsea Yeoman. We're talking third trimester abortions. The governor of Massachusetts just signed a law making the Bay State the 10th state to allow abortions until birth. What's going on here?
Post-Roe, we really get to decide who we want to be as a society, and Massachusetts is saying the best they have to offer women is abortion. That's a really horrific thing. And they're using it, of course, under the fear-mongering. And fear is a powerful tool. It's a tool used to control. So you look at these headlines, and the mainstream media are talking about women facing emergencies and complications that are very real medical emergencies and complications, no doubt. But is killing their child first, then delivering that child an ethical medical practice? No, laws like this normalize death as a medical treatment. It's an abomination, but you're compounding women who are already facing complications and stress and a storm in their life with having to kill their unborn child as an option. And that's a really ridiculous thing. Pro-life gynecologists have treated women who are facing medical emergencies without abortion for centuries. But at the end of the day, you have two patients when you have a pregnant mother. And Massachusetts has officially made it the law of the land that living human children in the womb are second-class citizens, if that.
Late-term abortions would involve the dismemberment of unborn babies.
Mm-hmm.
They can't do what they're doing in week 6 and week 8 with these full-term babies. Do you think there will be a challenge to the law?
I certainly hope so. Massachusetts is not a promising legal landscape. And what we're seeing at the state level is blue states running as hard and as fast towards abortion as possible. Once a child is created, there's an ethical duty for that child, a duty of care, just like every living child should have. And so there's many battles we're fighting on the pro-life front, and there's no shortage, unfortunately, of work to be done on that front. And we can sincerely use your prayers for a culture that values living human children over a culture of death. We're up against a lot. We know 95% of biologists agree life begins at conception, even in the secular biology community. And when you have a public outcry on an issue and you just refuse to be silenced on behalf of those who cannot speak, I hope ultimately that influences leadership. Even at our state level, we should know our representatives' names. We should know our senators' names. We should be at the legislatures testifying. Every single one of us can call their offices and say, what are you doing about this? And make no mistake, it makes a difference.
I think we're all grateful for the overturning of Roe versus Wade with the power being given back to the states. But you hit on this at the beginning. What happens in the blue states like New York that want to be abortion havens? Where does that go? And will we end up with a country with 40 states that take a stand for life and just these 10 that become protective states that are fighting in the opposite direction?
That's where the federal solutions come in. But I'll also say this. We have some model legislation here at ADF that I've worked on for a year now here, but years before in the state of Texas, passed it last summer. And it holds those out-of-state doctors accountable for the harms they cause for the mother and child. So for every life that is lost for a child, they can sue across state lines and pierce those shield laws. And those lawsuits have started in Texas. And then for mothers who are injured who might lose fallopian tubes, these are very dangerous drugs. They're very high-risk drugs. And according to the FDA, 1 in roughly 20 are going to end up in the emergency room. When you start thinking of 600,000 women taking these drugs nationwide that we know of, it's a lot of women in ERs with long-term injuries.
What do you have to say to Massachusetts?
You can be a voice of hope for women who are struggling, worried, doubtful about what they're facing, or you can be a source of hopelessness and offer death, and they've chosen death. There will be a very real price to pay for these children and their mothers. These kids are living and they're human, and that should be enough. And when you get in the business of deciding which humans are and are not worthy of protection in life, you're in really dangerous territory as a society.
Learn more at adflegal.org.
Thank you, Sarah. The name of the program, Faith Under Fire. It comes your way every Thursday during the Noon Report or online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and FamilyLife.org. And finally at noon, survey says about a third of all Americans will take a nap on a regular basis. And according to Bree Tennis, most of us are not doing it right.
The National Sleep Center says most of us are not hitting the sweet spot of a nap. Not long enough, you wake up cranky. Too long, you risk a sleep hangover. The Cleveland Clinic says the nap has to hit one of two places to be successful. No more than 20 minutes to avoid deep sleep, or a full 90 minutes to complete a sleep cycle. They say either is great to recharge, but know that the sweet spot to take a nap comes between 1 and 3 p.m. I'm Bree Tennis.
All right, good to know. Thank you, Bree. And that's our world, the world we live in. Thursday, the 27th of August. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at FamilyLife.org.